Okay guys, so in this educational style video, I'm going to be covering how you can lose fat going into the new year and most importantly, keep it off forever. It's the 9th of January where I'm filming this now. There's a lot of people, starting the year with that new year, new me mentality, doing crazy exercise routines. And I find that the majority of people going into the new year, most people want to trim down a little bit and lose fat. And the most important thing about this video is I'm going to explain how you can actually get lean in the first place, but then keep that body fat off forever within reason, provided that you stick and maintain to the structures and steps that I'm going to explain in this video. So we've actually had quite a few clients join our coaching program over the last couple of weeks, with it being the new year. And since, we've set the clients up with their program, their tailored training program, their nutrition targets, I've seen quite a few things in the first couple of weeks that I'm going to mention in this video. For example, people going, really, really low on calories in the first couple of weeks to try and lose body fat really, really quickly. That can be an effective approach, but essentially the steps that I'm going to outline in this video are going to be more sustainable so that you can lose it in a sustainable way, still enjoy your life, and obviously move towards that lean physique over time that you can sustain year round. Now, I'm a firm believer of being confident in the way you look year round. Of course, if your goal is to build muscle, then you're going to need to go into a little bit of a calorie surplus. But the way that we do it with our clients is we never want them to feel uncomfortable with the way they look. Naturally, body fat might climb up a little bit in a muscle gaining phase, but I'm really not a fan of these kind of big cuts and really, really aggressive fat loss phases and deficits that you see a lot of bodybuilders doing and coaching their clients in that way. So that's kind of how I wanted to start off the video, actually, is kind of explain my approach to fitness and the approach that we take with all our clients and kind of like our brand ethos, I guess, if you could call it that. So this is not a bodybuilding approach. Of course, we take principles from bodybuilding training in terms of hypertrophy, strength, calorie surplus deficit, and things like that. But personally, like when I got into fitness, I never wanted it to completely take over my life, which is part of the reason that I post these videos and I post the vlogs, so that you guys can actually see a bit of a deeper insight into my life and, see me socializing regularly, see me having a few drinks every now and again, seeing me going on holiday while still sticking to my routine and not getting stressed about that. So the approach that we teach is an approach that will not take over your life. And I think a huge thing for the clients that we work with as well, they travel a lot, they're social individuals. So our kind of unique approach is, well, it's not unique. There are, obviously a lot of people doing it in the industry, but we want to show people how to get in shape without it taking over their life and showing them how they can still socialize and eat out. I'm a firm believer that fitness should complement your life and definitely not take over it. So if you are new to the channel, I think it's always really important for me to introduce myself and kind of give a little bit of social proof, like who am I to tell you how to build muscle and lose fat and, follow all these approaches if you don't understand and know who I am. So I'm the founder of Athletic Aesthetic. We are an online coaching program. We have a team of 3 coaches on board the team. We primarily work with entrepreneurs, business owners, and clients in the corporate setting, people in high pressure jobs that travel for work, need to eat out for their job, and people that cannot be in the gym for 2 hours a day. We've worked with hundreds of clients. The majority of our clients, as I said earlier on in the video, they're looking to lean down and lose body fat whilst building muscle at the same time. And we also have some clients that have performance goals as well. So they might want to run a 10K, a half marathon, or maybe even a marathon. So for me personally, I like to stay lean year round for the reasons similar to what I mentioned before. It really, really suits my personal goals in terms of growing the channel, growing the brand, and attracting the right clients into the company. And personally, I feel a lot more confident when I'm lean. Again, I'll go through phases of going higher body fat throughout the year. I always like to lean down a little bit in some. I'm a bit larger. I like to stay, I would say certainly below 13% body fat year round. I probably bounce between, I would say 10 and 12.5% body fat. I've never really had those body fat tests done, but I just know, looking at my physique and kind of where I hold my body fat, that I'm probably maintaining that amount of body fat there. As I say, not really a fan of bulking up, and the clients that we attract into the business are kind of a similar mindset as well. So the training that I primarily do it's strength training. I've strength trained consistently for almost 14 years now. If you want to check out the previous video, it was a Q&A that I did this month, going into a little bit of background with my own training, but that's always formed the foundation of my routine is strength training. And recently, over the last 4.5 years, I've brought in running as well, but I've never really reduced my strength training volume. And that's really, really important if you want to stay lean, or if you want to get lean and stay lean. then the majority of your training, there needs to be a big focus on strength training in order to raise and maintain a high metabolic rate, which is going to help with fat loss as well. So the first aspect that I wanted to cover for getting you lean and helping you to stay lean for a prolonged period of time, ideally for years and years, is one that I think is often overlooked by a lot of people. A lot of people think about, the training plan, they think about the cardio, they think about the diet plan. Of course, those are really important variables that we'll get onto later on in this video, but without a strong mindset and having an element of discipline, it's going to be very hard for you to stick to the training plan, for you to do the expenditure targets like doing the steps, maybe doing the additional cardio, and then of course sticking to the nutrition plan as well. So mindset really does underpin everything, and to put it bluntly, it's unlikely that you're going to stay lean year round without the right mindset, unless you're very lucky. We all know, there's individuals that might have been someone at school or at uni who ate crap, was always going out on the weekend, but they maintained that kind of lean physique. I certainly don't fall into that category. I have to work very hard to stay in the shape that I am. And, for 95% of the population, they don't fall into that category either. So you do need to be disciplined to stay lean. And I don't know anyone that maintains a lean physique year round without, being a disciplined individual in terms of managing their time, saying no in certain situations, not over consuming foods, not eating too much when they go out, rarely missing training sessions. Discipline is absolutely key. So you will need to make decisions, choices, and sacrifices in order to get lean. And I think that's really important to understand. There's a lot of people on the internet these days that will tell you, you can eat out 8 times a week, not track calories, train just 2 or 3 times a week and get really lean. I'm sorry to kind of break it to you. It's just not the case. And I don't want you to think by watching this video and me saying these sorts of things that you have to live like a monk and a bodybuilder. You definitely don't. But what I'm trying to say is you are just going to need to have a strong mindset, and you're going to need to be disciplined. So I think a key thing as well, let's say we bring a client on board that has a fat loss goal. Realistically, we're probably going to be working towards that fat loss goal for 12 to 16 weeks. And something that we say to those new clients is that they need to almost identify as someone who is lean before they are lean. You need to, practice the habits that someone who is lean would before you actually get there. And you're always going to have to go through this, relatively difficult phase where you're putting in all the work and you're not seeing too many results. But if you just stick to that over time, you will see the results come definitely. So you need to identify as someone who wants to be lean and healthy year round if you want to get there, and most importantly, stay there. The next component of getting lean and staying lean, it goes without saying, you need to set clear goals. I think this is really important, especially a lot of people going into New Year. A lot of people do set goals, to be fair to them, whether they're realistic or unrealistic. But I think a lot of people go in blind and they don't really know, one, what they're looking to achieve. They don't know how lean they want to get. They don't really know what they want to look like. They don't really have anything that they're working towards. So of course, when they do have days of low motivation, they're not going to stick to the plan because they're not really working towards a goal. Look, if I look at a goal that I'm working towards at the moment, I'm trying to run a PB half marathon. I know when that is, it's on a certain day. I have the plan in place. I know that I need to hit certain runs in order to achieve that result. So, on the days where I have low motivation, it doesn't matter because I have that clear goal in place. I would really recommend setting goals, whether that is a physique goal. Obviously the title of this video is getting lean. So, maybe that's a certain look that you want to achieve, a certain body fat percentage, maybe it's a certain weight on the scale. You need to know where you're at and you need to know what you're working towards there, whether that's a fat loss phase, whether it's a reverse diet, which is the opposite of a dieting phase where you slowly start to bring up your calories again, and we'll get onto that in a separate video. Or, you might actually be someone watching this who's actually looking to lean gain. So you need to have a goal of, maybe a target body weight that you want to hit in order to signify that you've built muscle. Maybe you have certain weights that you want to hit in the gym to help you build muscle as well. You might also have performance benefits as well. Sorry, not performance benefits, performance goals as well. A lot of our clients will also work towards, as I said before, maybe a 5K or a 10K race whilst also getting lean. I think that's a little bit of a hack, to be honest. If you can tag on a performance goal alongside a body composition or a fat loss goal, it can be a really effective way of getting towards that body composition goal, because you're not solely focused on the way you look. And it goes without saying, if you are doing maybe a little bit of running alongside your strength training, your expenditure is going to be higher. So it can help with fat loss. I'm not saying it's the best way to do it. I think, to be honest, if I had someone who said, I just want to get lean, I probably wouldn't recommend doing running. But what I'm trying to say is a key important part of getting lean and getting into good shape is doing it in a way that you enjoy. So if you enjoy strength training and running, like I do personally at the moment, then your adherence to a plan and ultimately the result that you get will probably be higher. So medium-term goals can be really, really important or effective, and an example of that could be a holiday that you're working towards, maybe, a holiday in June or July, giving you 6 months to maybe do a little bit of a lean gaining phase and then a little bit of a fat loss phase. Again, this video is more about kind of getting lean, but what I'm trying to say is having clear goals in place, like something like a holiday can be an effective way to lose body fat and really, really zone in on that. Or it could be an event, it could be a wedding, or it could literally just be, a period of time where you've set a goal and say, I want to be in the best shape, my best shape ever by that event. We have some clients that are working towards, being in the best shape of their lives by the time they're 30, for example. But with the goals, it's essential that they are somewhat challenging, but they're also achievable as well. If I said, if I look at a performance goal, I want to run, maybe a 1:29 half marathon. If I said, I want to run a 1:15 half marathon in 6 months' time, it's literally probably 95% probably impossible for me to do that. And similar to a weight loss client or a fat loss client, if they want to lose 30 pounds in 3 weeks, it's very, very unlikely that they're going to get there. So make sure that your goals are challenging, but also achievable. The next component of this, arguably, probably the most important one, is going to be the training plan. So it goes without saying you need to follow a structured training program. You need to follow a plan that is strength focused, and you are focusing on progressively overloading each week. And that's going to involve you tracking your weights. That is a really, really important part of the plan and something that I see a lot of people slip up on. I have a lot of conversations with people on LinkedIn and Instagram, and we're just going back and forward trying to kind of diagnose the problem in terms of why they haven't achieved the physique that they want. And something that comes up a lot is people do not track their lifts in the gym. They're going into the gym, looking at the racks, seeing what weights are free, trying to remember the weights and the reps that they did the week before. It's never going to happen. You might experience some results at the start of your lifting journey in the first 6 to 12 months by just going in and picking up numbers and weights blind. But once you have a certain amount of experience, which is certainly the people that we coach, I would say on average, the people that we coach have probably been training and lifting weights for 3 to 4 years. So you're going to need to be more tactical and methodical with the way that you approach your training. So we give all our clients tailored training programs in an app. They write down the weights and the reps in the app. It saves in the app. It will show them what they did last week when they go into the gym and do the same workout again. And then in the check-ins, we will monitor the client's progression and advise and show them how they can progress each week and give them advice on that. So tracking your lifts is so, so important. And progressive overload essentially means doing, better than you did the week before, for want of a better term, going for the extra rep each week that most people forget about. Realistically, if you're doing 10 reps in a set and you maybe could have done 11 reps, you're going one rep away from failure. The reps are going to be hard from 6 to 10 there, and a lot of people would stop at 6 or 7. It's really, really important that you push for that 8th, 9th or 10th and just try and add a rep each week. I was doing weighted pull-ups in the gym today. I added a rep onto each of my working sets compared to last week. I know over time, if I focus on my sleep, rest, recovery and nutrition and recover from my workouts, that is going to lead to me building muscle in the long run. But again, it doesn't seem like crazy progress, but if you compound that over time, it really, really will add up. And a key one with the training, it sounds obvious, but just don't miss your training sessions. Only follow a training program that you can stick to year round. So if you are confident that you can only do 3 sessions a week for 52 weeks of the year, then make sure you do that. A big mistake that I see people make, especially in January, is trying to commit to 5 or 6 sessions a week. And by the time they get to February, mid-February, they're only doing 2 or 3 a week. I would much rather that you did 3 sessions consistently year round than go through these waves of doing 5 or 6 a week and dropping down to 1 or 2, because not only are you're never going to be able to progress properly on that training program, it's probably an unnecessary amount of volume, but it's also going to kill your confidence seeing yourself miss and not do things that you said you were going to do. So that's a really, really important thing there, is follow a training program that is realistic for you to stick to year round, regardless of what comes up with holidays, travel, work events, whatever it is. And again, I've kind of touched on this before, but you need to be able to adapt your training program for busier weeks of work. So that's something that we do with our clients. Sometimes we will make a couple of different programs for them. So for example, I have one client that spends kind of half his time, or most of his time in New York, but he travels to London once a month. So I have a version of a training program that I give him for when he goes to London. And it means that he can still progress and he doesn't get thrown off, because often with travel, people become overwhelmed. They don't know how they can adapt their training to a different gym. So I would really, really recommend trying to just focus on and using bits of equipment and kit that you can do and make repeatable in different gym environments. So for example, focus primarily on using barbells, dumbbells, stereotypical, common machines such as chest press, lat pull down, things like that. Most gyms, even shitty hotel gyms, will have machines like that in, and it means that you'll still be able to progress. Yes, you might be a little bit jet lagged and things like that from travel. That's a whole different thing, but it means that you can stay consistent even if you do travel regularly and some spontaneous travel comes up. The next thing, another obvious one, massively important part of this, is nutrition. Now, again, as I mentioned before, I'm of the approach that I want to show our clients and people and educate people how they can still eat out and get into good shape. I eat out pretty much every day of the week, sometimes twice on the weekend. I'm a huge proponent of doing that. But I think if you're going to eat out regularly, then going back to what our first point of the video was, discipline is so key. You need to be able to go out and maybe just order, a healthy starter and a healthy main course, rather than having 3 courses and having a huge dessert. If you start doing that, it's going to be unlikely that you can drop body fat and stay lean. So you can eat out, you can, eat the foods that you enjoy, but there has to be a certain element of discipline required for that. I think that tracking calories for a period of time is an incredibly effective way to get lean and stay lean. Let's say you were doing a 16-week fat loss phase. If you track your calories consistently for 16 weeks, you're going to build up a lot of knowledge around the calories and the calorie intake that are in certain foods. So then if you want to take time off tracking in the future, you've built up that knowledge to be able to do that. I could not track calories ever again, and I genuinely think I'd probably be within 10% of accuracy on where I kind of want to be and where I need to be. So tracking is an incredibly effective tool if you have a good relationship with tracking calories. Manipulating macros to suit your goals. So what I usually find the camp that most people fall into when they're trying to drop body fat is they underconsume on protein and overconsume on fats. So the first thing that we'll usually do with our clients is give them a fat ceiling, so they're not overconsuming, let's say more than 70 to 80 grams of fat a day. Obviously it depends on male, female, and the individual's body weight. We'll give them a protein target that's determined by their body weight. So for me, I'm around 80 kilos. I try and consume, minimum 160 grams of protein a day, preferably a little bit higher. So we generally go 2 to 2.2 grams per day per kilo of body weight for protein intake. And then if we had a performance focused client that was maybe doing more cardio or doing running alongside their lifting and trying to get lean, we would potentially place more carbohydrates around their higher output days with runs and things like that. But essentially what I'm trying to say is if you want to get lean and stay lean, you're going to need to dial in your macros, avoid over consuming on fats and wasting calories there, and making sure that you're getting a high amount of protein in your diet to support muscular recovery and also to keep you satiated as well. And what you might need to consider, and a lot of people don't want to face up to this, is you might need to remove certain foods. That doesn't mean that any foods are good or bad, but it means that maybe there's certain foods that you tend to overeat, that maybe it would be a good idea to just remove those from your diet at the moment. If I had a box of chocolate biscuits in my cupboard, even if I was in a fat loss phase, even as a disciplined individual, they would all probably get eaten within a couple of days. So I just don't purchase foods that don't, align with my goals. And again, I think a lot of people, they think that's obsessive, they think it's overkill, but the harsh reality of it is, if you want to change the way you look, you might need to avoid certain foods, and that's literally just the way it is. Mentioned this earlier on in the video, but saying no in certain situations, again, I don't want you to think that I'm not trying to say that you need to say no to social events all the time and not eat out, but maybe, if you were in the habit of eating out 4 or 5 times a week and you weren't happy with the way you looked, can we be more selective with those events, and can we pull it down to maybe just 2 or 3 meals a week just to improve the accuracy of the tracking of your nutrition? Because it goes without saying, it's much easier to track your nutrition when you do, maybe order from a meal prep company, or you prepare and cook your own meals there. So again, I'm not saying cut those occasions and special events out, but maybe just try and limit the amount of food that you do eat out. I'm working with a client at the moment that was ordering delivery, every single day, going out for lunch every single day. So we've just set a goal of trying to halve that, and it will be incredibly effective because, he was just wasting excess calories on, oily foods and things like that, where he didn't know what the restaurant and the chefs were cooking things in. And also fueling for performance as well as the last one with nutrition. You've got to understand that if you're wanting to lose body fat, we still need to be pushing heavy weights in the gym. We need to be promoting performance in the gym, and that's going to come from having a good amount of carbs in your diet. If you are going into a deficit, you are obviously going to need to probably reduce your carbohydrate intake, but you still need a good amount of carbs in your diet to feel good day to day and to actually change your physique, to lift heavy weights, to promote performance and build muscle. You can build muscle in a calorie deficit. It just depends on the context of the individual. That's a big mistake that I see people make, is they'll just remove carbs straight away. It's definitely not the way to do it. You can periodically remove carbs over time if weight plateaus and things like that. So we've covered mindset, training, and nutrition. Now we're going to cover expenditure. So step count is, I think, an incredibly effective way to promote fat loss, provided that you're keeping the other variables in your routine consistent, and that would be nutrition, training, and cardio. Let's say, I wanted to drop 2 kg of body fat over the next 5 weeks. All I would probably do is I would just increase my step count from maybe 8,000 steps a day to 12,000 steps a day. If you keep everything else in your routine consistent, that bump up in steps and expenditure is going to mean that you're going to burn more calories day to day, which will promote fat loss there. So I think it's a little bit of a hack. If you can maintain over 10,000 steps a day and you can progress in the gym, do a little bit of cardio and remain disciplined with your nutrition, you will get leaner and you will stay lean year round, provided that you maintain that high expenditure target there. Now, obviously, it does take time to hit a high step count, I'm not going to lie, but this comes down to time management, structure, and routine. I have a non-negotiable 45 to 60 minute block of time in the morning where I will do steps, and I'll accumulate probably 4,000 to 5,000 steps a day. Sometimes if I'm a little bit low on steps, I'll do a few steps on the treadmill, respond to client messages, emails, do social media work, whatever it is. And then if I'm still low in the evening, I'll go for another short walk as well. Again, it does take time, but I think if you can batch tasks onto doing this, i.e. not make your steps literally just you going for a walk, you could listen to a podcast, you could call family members, you could Zoom members of your team if you've got a business or something like that, or you can respond to messages or whatever. Make it an efficient and productive use of time. And then it means that, it doesn't feel like too much of a laborious task, and it is actually productive. And I genuinely think if you're not doing, at least 8,000 steps a day, I think you're going to struggle to, one, get lean in the first place, and certainly stay lean long term. Majority of people that I know that stay lean year round, i.e., I would say under 15% body fat, to be honest, they maintain a high step count year round, and that means that their expenditure is higher than the average individual. And I can speak from experience there because I work behind a desk all day for between 8 to 10 hours. So it's not as I'm walking around, it's not as I'm walking around the gym training clients like I used to 5 years ago when I was a PT. The next one is social life and events. And I touched on this before. I don't want you to think that you need to rule out social events, but it might be useful for you to significantly reduce the amount of them for a period of time to get to where you want to be. So if we're doing, an 8-week intensive fat loss phase of a client, we might just say, look, let's just try and not drink alcohol for the next 8 weeks, or maybe let's significantly reduce it. And it can be a really, really effective way of dialing things in to see results quickly, to get the client to get that buy-in, that motivation, that proof of concept that we would call it. And then it gives them that motivation to go forward and keep doing it. But again, it really depends on the person. We've achieved great results with clients that have drank every weekend. They have been social, but again, it really depends on the unique situation of the client. I think most people, to be honest, could just be could benefit from being a little bit more disciplined around social events and just being more selective with them. So again, if you were drinking twice a week, let's just try and pull that down to once, or once every 2 weeks. If you were eating out 4 times a week, can we pull that down to 2? And again, if you can keep the other variables in your routine consistent and really focus on your training, your step count, and maybe some cardio in your routine, you will see a massive, massive improvement there. We kind of touched on that before, so I would really recommend minimizing alcohol consumption. There's no positive benefit in terms of health and fitness from consuming alcohol. And then maybe once you've achieved your goal, you can slowly bring that back in over time if it is of high value to you. Again, it's not going to be the deal breaker in terms of getting lean and staying lean, but let's say you're going to need to probably reduce your calories if you're wanting to get lean. on top of the other variables that I've mentioned there in terms of step count and training. And if you're wasting, 500 to 1,000 calories a week on alcohol, that could have been put into good quality carbohydrates, which are going to fuel your performance and help you keep you more satiated day to day. So yeah, I think cutting it out for a period of time can be really, really effective. And just in terms of the people that you hang around with as well, if there are people that are, maybe pressuring you into going to these events and drinking alcohol, or maybe, trying to, tempt you to do these sorts of things, maybe just avoid seeing those people for a few weeks. If they're genuinely your friends, they're going to be okay with you doing that, and they should respect the decision of you doing that. We're working with quite a few clients at the moment that have said that, they have avoided a few social events because their friends are heavy drinkers and things like that. And I think that's okay. As I say, I've been through phases of doing this in the past, and my friends, are respectful of my goals there. So the last one, sleep and recovery. The people that do really, really well and the people that have taken the fat off and have kept it off long term are usually also addressing things outside of the basics like training and nutrition and steps, and they're putting in the extra work with their recovery. They're looking at their sleep, they're tracking it on devices like Whoop or Oura Ring or Garmin or the Apple Watch. They're always trying to improve there. They may be doing sauna sessions and things like that as well. I would always recommend putting a lot of effort into your sleep because it really is the foundation of fitness. But unless you're nailing your training and nutrition plan, your expenditure targets, I wouldn't worry too much about trying to do saunas and ice baths and things like that. But if you are very, very consistent with everything across the board and you want to take it to the next level, then, putting in things like saunas are going to help promote recovery. It's going to, help you to de-stress, which is going to have knock-on benefits in terms of improving your performance in the gym. It's going to improve and increase your ability to drop body fat as well. So doing those sorts of things, it can be a nice, extra 5 to 10%, I would say, but it's definitely not as much of what we would call a needle mover as dialing in your training and dialing in your nutrition, because at the end of the day, those are the things that are going to help you lose fat and keep it off forever within reason. So I hope you found this video useful. Hopefully there's some things that you can take from there and maybe some things that you can change with your January routine. My biggest tip would be to not go all guns blazing in January. It's okay, I would say, to work a little bit harder in January than you intend on doing for the rest of the year. But if you're doing 6 sessions a week now and in the back of your mind that it's not going to be possible for you to do this year round, then I would really, really consider changing your training program and trying to stick to a training program that you can stick to year round. And I would really, really avoid going too low on calories too quickly, because I've seen it so many times before where clients go too low and they bounce back and they end up overeating and end up putting the weight back on. But yeah, I hope you found this useful. If you are interested in chatting to me one-to-one about coaching and just, getting some advice from myself and seeing how we could potentially help you, there will be a link in the bio where you can actually book a call with me completely free of charge. But if not, check me out on Instagram. You can sign up to our free workouts as well.